612 is your time right now, and there have been a lot of stories coming out of Fairfax County recently, crimes affecting our local neighbors and families. And that's why we're joined now by Chief of Police Kevin Davis, who is kind of walk us through some of these investigations and get us up to speed on what's been going on. Chief, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time today.
So thank you, Larry. The coolest set, no doubt about it.
Listen, it's pretty fresh out here.
It is.
Yeah, we spent a little money, so we did a good job. So let's start with the first question that we have, and let's talk about that standoff on Richmond Highway. That went on for 30 plus hours. I think a lot of people that were watching it all unfold were at home thinking to themselves, man, this is going on almost too long. Can you walk us through the process and the thinking for law enforcement as they're trying to get this woman out of this vehicle safely?
So Larry, first I'll say, well, thank you for the question. There's really no such thing as too long as we can safely resolve a situation like that. This was a woman who was involved in criminal activity, but she was also absolutely in a mental health, behavioral health crisis. And she was armed with a firearm. She's in a car by herself. There's no one else in immediate danger. So we took our time. We got co-responders to the scene. We got clinicians to the scene. We negotiated with her for 34 hours. And at the end of that, we safely took her into custody. So she lives to fight another day. And I was on the phone yesterday with the Mount Vernon Chamber of Commerce, and they were, applauding the efforts to safely resolve the situation. I've received calls from my colleagues across the country because that's what we all want. And there's been a lot of that stuff going on yesterday in Arlington, Louisville, Nashville. So anytime public safety police can walk away from a situation without having to use deadly force, that's a victory for everybody.
There certainly seems to be a greater emphasis on trying to address the mental health issues associated with all of this. Would you say that maybe some of the internal work that you guys have done as a department kind of aided you in this situation particularly?
I think so, and it's not unique to Fairfax County, although we're certainly proud of our efforts, but our dedication to having co-responders, clinicians respond to those crises, to negotiate. They're experts, that's what they do for a living. And they just make us better. So that's what happened on Richmond Highway, and we're doing more and more of it in Fairfax County, and the profession is doing more of it across the country, and that's where we should be.
I want to get to that shooting at Tyson's Corner Mall that resulted in the death of Timothy Johnson. His family has spoken out, and we understand that Sergeant Shiflett, who was associated with that investigation, has filed an appeal for his termination. Tell us about the internal reviews that are going on right now. What can you tell us about that situation thus far?
Larry, I can only say so much. I held a press conference when I released the body-worn camera footage to the community. I think that was 29 days after that fatal officer-involved shooting, and I announced that he was separated from the police department. His ability to appeal the termination, that's personnel matters, and everyone has the right to do that. So. We'll deal with that. We are dealing with that, but I think the right decision was made for the community, for the police department, and I stand by it.
Okay. You have a unique relationship or partnership with George Mason University, a partnership we understand that's really going to pay dividends for the department as well as the county.
Right, long after I'm gone. So this is a 20-year research project.
Yeah.
Dr. Cynthia Lum, who's brilliant, you should have her on the show one day.
Okay.
Dr. Lum and the Fairfax County Police Department and the National Policing Institute, they're the funders. So they put their money where their mouth is, and we want to study who comes into our profession, why people choose to come into our profession, and when they get to our profession, what determines whether they're successful or not. And I held up a picture of my academy class 30 some odd years ago, and within the frame of my academy class are people who were wildly successful, and then there were people who weren't so successful. There were people who struggled with mental illness. There was a suicide in my police academy class. So what determines a person's path, route, and journey as a police officer? I don't think it's happenstance. I think culture speaks a lot to people's opportunities and their successes, struggles, or failures. And this research project, done again by experts, is going to put our profession, not just Fairfax County, in a better place to understand why people choose to put their hand up in the air and say, I want to be a public servant.
And hopefully that'll give us some really great information about where the department and where the agency goes next.
Absolutely. We start our largest police academy class on April 24th in 10 years with 58 recruits. So we feel like we're turning the corner a bit, and the momentum to really replenish some of the vacancies that we and other agencies have had over the past couple of years is front and center.
All right, Chief Davis, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.